Juan, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, you are mute. Go ahead.
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Okay, good morning or good evening to all, and welcome to the Data-Driven Community virtual meeting. As I said before we started, this meeting is recorded. Can someone confirm that you can see the red light saying that it is recorded? Joss, can you see that the recording?
Yes. I can see this
Awesome.
one.
My name is Moreno, and I'm honored to host this meeting today. It's a great opportunity to remind about our next meetings. On April 27, we will meet with John again. We will learn how to get the most from Azure SQL database. And on March 13, we will have a meeting about up and running, how to make your Synapse analytic POCs success. You are welcome to follow us in the media network on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Eventbrite, YouTube, everywhere. We have a channel there. So after the meeting, you can download the presentation and just scan the code and follow us. If you want to present in one of the future meetings, then please contact Jen Joseph from Microsoft. Again, you can scan the QR code now if you are fast enough, or download the presentation. At this point, please make sure that your camera is turned off and the microphone. We will let you use it. If you really feel that you need, use your reaction option and put your hand up. If you have any question or just comment, then please use the chat. You can use it for discussion as well on the topic. Today we have not one but two Microsoft Escalation engineers coming together. So Jos Manuel and Juan Moreno is here with us. And with this, I will give you the control. Please share your screen, and you are welcome to give us some more information about what you do and yourself.
Well, again, thank you so much for the invitation that we have. As we mentioned, we are going to talk about Azure SQL Journey, about what will be the daily routine for a Cloud DBA, comparing, for example, with a hybrid on-premise environments. You have our names. And the first thing is to, as we mentioned, thank you so much for this invitation. So about me, well, basically, I'm an escalation engineer working in Microsoft, as Ron mentioned before. I'm working for Microsoft for more than 11 years. Basically, I'm supporting right now Azure SQL DB platforms and services. And in the past, I support other versions of SQL, let's say SQL on-premises, analysis services, etc. With me is Juan Moreno. Juan, most probably you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, so I'm Juan Moreno. I'm support escalation engineer also in Microsoft. I have been, oh my God, this is not updated. I have been in Microsoft for almost 8 years, okay? And I belong to Azure SQL Server hybrid team, okay? That means that I support on-premises SQL Server, both in local storage or in any cloud, Azure or whatever the cloud you will have. And I also have been a speaker on a lot of events, and I'm proud now to be here with you.
Thank you so much, Juan. Well, let's start let's get started with this. No, Juan, what do you think that will be a normal day from an DBA in on-premises, for example?
It depends. You set the first hour to check my environment. If you are an on-premises DBA, most probably you will have a lot of work. If you are an Azure DBA, you will have no work at all. No, just kidding. So I think that the first things that we will do, as we have in the schedule for today, the first things that we do is check in how is the health and how is the performance of our environment. Okay, so first we need to start by checking in which environment are we. Okay, because most probably we will have three kinds of environments. I mean, most probably you will have on-premises, you will have hybrid environments, and you will have Azure pure environments. Then I will need to start to check my disaster recovery plans, my backups that are very important. Okay. Then if everything in high availability is going fine, and of course, once I have checked everything is up and running, I will start to check my audits and to monitor my systems to see if we have any issue like security eruption or something like that. If all the databases are performing okay, if we have any alert or whatever, and then I will take care of the performance. Okay, I think performance is one of the most time-consuming tasks that we have along the day. And of course, we can't forget about developers that are continuously asking us for something. Okay, so we, if we can, we are okay to help others. And in this presentation, even if we are joking now about it, but we will show you how important it is to help others to have our databases in shape.
Yes, no, it's true. So at the end, basically, because we receive many comments that no, the cloud DBA or the cloud is going to replace the DBA works, etc. It's not true, because at the end we need the DBAs. So for the reason, the idea that we have in these sessions is what is the normal day for a DBA in on-premises, let's say, the normal day in SQL DB. So the options that we have, because basically in all the options that we have right now in this schedule that we are doing every day, and the end you need to do the same, more or less in another way with another tools. Okay, another option is it's done automatically by the service, but in sense is the same. Okay, you are working.
And one thing that is very important, because most probably, according to the title of the session, Azure database. Okay, where you will be wondering why an escalation from on-premises came here to deliver this session with Jose Manuel. Well, because we will show you that the way you used to do the things in on-premises is very, very near to the way you can do it in Azure. And moreover, if we will show you the amount of work that Microsoft do for you when you have, for instance, an SQL DB, an Azure SQL DB, because you will not need to take care of a lot of stuff that in on-premises you will need to do manually. Okay, and that is important. And on the other hand, we will show you how Azure also help on-premises DBAs to do their work, because some of the tools that was created for Azure currently are also available for on-premises. So I think it will be interesting to see this from the two sides, from the cloud and from on-premises.
But before, just only I would like to ask some questions to the audience. It's about if you have any special interest about it. If not, we are going to cover all the topics, but the idea is just only if you have any, type in the chat window, if you have any specific question about the role, about the Hybrid DBA, or questions about how to change the role in Azure SQL DB when you are, let's say, moving or creating or migrating, etc. Okay, so it's just only to have any information from you. What is your main interest?
I'll follow chat anyway. If there are questions, I'll bring it to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
If I already stopped you, so there is someone that have just asked a question. So if you can answer it, so your environment is a mixed one. As much as I understand, you are not talking about mixed environment, but you want to show us the comparison between the on-premises and the Azure SQL.
Yes, right.
And also, we will talk about mixed environments. Okay.
Yes.
For instance, we work together in some cases because some customers has hybrid environments. Okay, partially in Azure virtual machines with SQL Server, and the other part in Azure SQL DB or in managed instance. Okay, so we can have hybrid environments in that way, and also you can have part of your SQL Server environment in Azure virtual machines, and the other part in your local data center as on premises, as a normal on premises. Okay, so we will see these different environments right now.
Yeah. So Juan, I would like to ask one question to you. When you need to implement a new project, what is the first thing that you are going to do?
Well, it depends. I will check first my requirements, the needs my customer could have, okay? And then I will start to plan what will be the best solution that Microsoft will offer me in regards to database, okay? And not only in regards to database, also if I really need to control the platform, or if I can delegate the platform control to Microsoft, okay? So we know we have different flavors for both, for SQL Server and for platform. So if you can explain a little bit, it will be perfect.
Yes, basically, as you mentioned, when you are, let's say, when you need to implement a new project, and the end, you need to, let's say, to create a dimension, what is the resources that you need for your environment, not CPU, memory, SQL Server version, etc. Well, in Azure Platforms and Services, we have the same. And the end, you need to choose what is the environment that you need for your environment. So for the reason we have three different flavors, let's say, that you could use SQL VMs, a pure VM, because when you need full control, all the service packs, all the control about the operating system, if you just only need to have the control of the managing the instance of SQL Server, the best way is to go with the option that we have in managed instance, and Microsoft as a Microsoft service provider is going to run for you the backups and the high availability. In this case, you don't have access to the operating system, or basically you need one database or two or three databases with one specific, with some specific amount of memory, CPU, and storage in order to create your environment or to work your environment. For the reason, it's nothing as special. So it's very similar, but the only thing that we know in this first environment is to know what will be the best option for us. So following this such of things, basically, as escalation engineers, also in Microsoft, we would like to mention two things that is very important. When we choose database scope, that means that we create a single instance for one specific database. That means that we are going to have just only one single instance that we are going to run this database. Okay, for the reason, normally this is best for when we need to require that no one will be affected or have any influence in the performance of my database. Okay, because I need just only one database, and there is no need to implement, for example, CLR or the SQL agent jobs, etc. What happened if I want to have, for example, I'm working for a company or multi-tenant applications. Well, you have another thing that is called Elastic Pool, that basically you are going to add several databases, and all these databases are going to run in the same SQL instance. Okay, so for the reason, if every operation must be or might impact in another database that is running in Elastic Pool in the similar manner that we have in SQL on premises. Okay. The last point, it's about managed instance. Well, basically, managed instance, as we mentioned, is when you want to have the benefits of the SQL or the SQL on premises environment. Let's say SQL agent. You want to run multiple things and manage the instance. Okay, so in this case, you need to decide to go to the managed instance. Okay, because it's the most way in order to live and live in terms of migrate the data to SQL Azure. So at the end, it's pretty much it's the same. Other things that is very important, most probably, Juan, you know more than me in this part, it's about the different services that we have in SQL Server when we install on SQL Server. First of all is integration services. Right now, in managed instance and
sorry. Stop.
Yeah.
Those are on-premises services.
Yes,
okay?
on-premises
so
services.
Integration services, analysis services, and reporting services is something that currently is just for on-premises. It doesn't matter if you are running in a virtual machine in an Azure cloud, or if you are running a virtual, a local machine, okay, that are only for on-premises. But I think that you enview us, okay, and you have created something to substitute it, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not 100 true in this part, because at the end, we are going to improve the system, Juan. let me explain why. Because I could use integration services. If I install integration services in one virtual machine, I could connect to the managed instance and SQL database. At the end, what happens when you have several performance problems when you install the SQL Server integration services in the same server that you have the SQL engine? And the end,
that is not recommended at all.
Yeah, but and the end is the same, no? But we add a new option that is called Azure Data Factory that include more options, more jobs, more flows in this part. Basically, is you could use both environment in this part. Of course, if you need to use integration services, we don't offer the services in the platform as a services. You could use Azure Data Factory, but if you want to use your integration services, of course, you could use as also as a repository and the connection of the source of the data integration services. In the similar situation that we have with analysis services, we have another analysis services as a platform as a services. So you could use your environment, or you could use also the service that we have in Azure. And finally,
so you are saying that I can use both integration services and analysis services against an on-premises database, and also using an Azure database?
Yes, Juan. I cannot count how many performance cases that we have with this technology is both. So in the similar manner that you have.
How good is platform?
Yeah,
that we can make.
I have one question or something that I think need to be clarified. You speak about the technical point, and this is great, but what about the cost? For example, if you are using the services in a different machine, you need another license. So I think that you need, and if you want to choose between the different services in the Azure, you need to take into consideration the cost. So one sentence about this is always important.
You're right in this part. Yes, of course, the cost is important. For the reason we have these similar offers, we have right now we have in the hybrid environment that we have many. We have customers that they are using their own license on premises to connect to the data that they have in Azure SQL DB a managed instance, or they are using from on premises. They are using Azure Data Factory integration runtime. So we have a lot of mixed things about it. You're right. If you are starting a new project, of course that you need a license. If for the reason, if you don't want to pay for this license in terms of integration services and IC services, you could use the services that we have in the cloud. The most important thing right now is to explain that the tools that we have right now, it's possible to use as destination or source the data that we have in platforms as services. But it's a very good question, this part. Yes.
Yes, because the keynote of this is that you could choose between them. Okay, it's not just forbidden to use the on-premises services to Azure. You can decide to use it. Okay,
yes.
It will depend entirely on you. For instance, a lot of people now with their on-premises SQL Server are using Power BI instead of reporting services. Okay, because the offer and the needs that Power BI covers fits better on their projects than reporting services. Okay, so you also can decide it. Okay.
Yes, also we have migrations using Power BI, because also if you want to offer the option to the reports internet, for example, you could use the Power BI web option, and you could connect directly to your on-premise environment using, for example, Power BI Gateway. So at the end, the mixes that we have in the different services is the add value that we are adding using the different tools.
Okay, so yes, now that we have set the context, okay, we have shown the environments that you could have. I think we can quickly go over the service tiers and all this kind of stuff and start with the daily routine. Okay.
Yes, the most important thing when we are working with Azure SQL DB or SQL Azure Managed Instance, basically I'm going to ask the question to you, Juan. What is the size that you are going to use? Do you have any in on-premises? Do you have any, let's say, provision about the amount of data that you are going to manage?
Yes. Example? If I have my on-premises database, I could monitor the resources that I am using and that I'm actually using, okay? And how large are my databases, the number of transactions that I am doing per minute, all that kind of stuff. Or I can provide to you it.
Yes. So at the end, in the service tiers, basically is the option that we have in terms of size, in terms of cost, and also in terms of latency. Okay, for example, if I choose general purpose, that is a remote storage, my latency of the storage will be more higher if I use business critical, because the latency that I need for my business needs to be less in terms of latency than general purpose. If I need more space, for example, more than 8 terabytes, I'm going to choose Hybrid Scale, that you could use or you could have for your database around more than 100 terabytes of data. So at the end, basically, the service tiers is as when you take the resources that you need, and the end basically is the same. So you need to ask, or you need to have any details, how much will be the number of vCores, the number of how much data you are going to use, etc. Okay, so for this one is very important. I don't know if you have any questions before to go to one demo that we have about auto scale.
Please inform me if I bother you too much, but I have another point that I think need to be mentioned or asked, and this is the comparison between the size on premises to the size on the Azure, because this is not one-to-one. If I'm using on premises, for example, one CPU, so it's not mean that I will need only one CPU in the Azure. Do you have like a golden rule that you can give us?
It's a very good question. Basically, we have two different services. We have vCores and we have DTUs. Right now, DTUs, more or less when you choose a standard, every 100 DTUs, the golden is one vCore. If you use 100, every 125 in premium, you are going to have more or less one vCore. For the reason we use one vCore. Also, we have other option to choose the vCore. Right now, when you create your database, you could specify the number of vCores. So it's a relation between 101 about the vCores. Well, it's a very good question. The best thing is to test the application, okay, or to test the environment. Why? Because we have different chipsets. So right now we are using, I don't remember, it's Intel, the chipsets, but if you are using others, sometimes will be 1.1 against 1, depending on the speed of the generation of the hardware, right? But normally when you choose one vCore, normally it's one vCore in on-premises right now. But as I mentioned before, depending several details about the chipset. I don't know if
I think that we have give a full picture of the environment.
Yes.
So I think we need to start with.
yes, of course. No, basically, I would like to share with you one detail about how is autoscale works in SQL. So right now, I have I have one database that right now the space is around 300 gigabytes of data. And for example, in the computer and storage, I could choose right now how many vCores that I need, what is the maximum number of vCores that I need, and the minimum number of vCores that I need. What that mean? That means that depending on the workload that you have, SQL Server is going to auto-scale the number of vCores depending on your workload. Basically, it's using the resource governor, but the most important is it's auto-scale. So, for example, let me show you an example that right now this is the overview that we have about the compute utilizations. I'm going to use one of the metrics that we have. 1 second. It's about CPU usage. Let me to close this one and close this one. Yeah. So right now, the maximum right now that I'm using is 0 because I don't have any workload. The idea is I'm going to increase the performance. So I'm going to run 1 second here. I'm going to choose other things is, as you could see in the SQL Server Management Studio, I could manage all the services that we have. This is managed instance, this is on premises, this is SQL, Azure SQL. So I'm going to choose this database. 1 second. Is this one? It's sorry, my mistake. It's PC. Perfect. Yeah, sorry. Second. Perfect. So I'm going to clean the buffer because just only for demo purpose, I would like to clean everything. So I'm going to run this process that basically this process, most probably you know what is OS stress. It's going to run around 200 process, running 200 iterations for every process, running the top one from one specific table, and also running the maxed up, okay, in order just only to have one process per, let's say, per vCore. So it's running right now. If I type correctly the password, you are going to see several DMVs about what is happening behind the scenes. If we run this query, for example, resource stat means about the CPU that you're using right now. The resource pools show us what is the different usage that we have. This is the resource pool that we have in order to manage your database. We have other resources pool in order to manage other things about backups, etc. And also, as we mentioned before about the resource governor, you could see right now that you are using an Intel Generation 6 with 8 vCores. So right now, the maximum limit is this. If I run this project, this process, we are going, if we refresh, we are going to see that in a couple of seconds, we are going to see that we are going to use other resources, other CPU. So at the end, we are going to perform these operations depending on the workload that you have. Okay, so most probably in a couple of, let's see what happened, but okay. But anyway, the most important thing is to explain that right now, running this project, this process, we are going to have this resource with this workload. Also, other things that we need to know is the queries that we are using, the DMVs that we are using in order to obtain the request, the scheduler, etc. It's pretty much is the same that we have in SQL on premises. Right now, we have running the query. We could see the weight stat, etc. So for the reason, and the end is pretty much is the same. And right now, with serverless option, you could run the auto scale and also the auto pause. If you are not using your database, we are going to, let's say, to pause your database, and you are not going to pay for this service. Okay. So I don't know if you have any questions about these such of things before go to the next slide about how we are going to check the backup.
No, you can continue.
Okay, so Juan.
Okay, yeah, so this is something that only Azure DBAs will do. Okay, how is the auto scale working? If they have more than one CPU working, and if they have plenty of them, most probably they will need to warn their management that this month they will pay a lot. Otherwise, they will just pay for one core. So why is important to check your backups? Your backups is your first line of defense when a disaster comes to your site. Okay, but you need to remember that a backup is considered a backup when it has been restored and it works perfectly. Okay, it is not just doing the backup, creating the backup and put it in a shell or wherever. Okay, you need to test it. You need to have a test environment to test your backup to see if you can restore the databases and the databases are correctly restored. Okay, that is what we consider a backup. So in on-premises, most probably you will have your own policy.
I have a question for you.
Oh yes.
How much time? How much time you spend? No, you lose your time checking the backups and the highability.
Okay, sorry. I need to correct you. I don't lose time. I invest time in the backups. Okay, because they are so important. And yes, I know what you will say, but it's important for me, and I invest a lot of time, mainly when I creating the policy of backups for a specific project. Okay, because I need to determine the frequency of the backups, which kind of backup I will create, where I will put that backup, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so yes, I invest a lot of time, and also I could try to automate it. I can use a third-party tool, or I can use SQL agent to do all my backups. But yes, at the end, even if we automate it, we invest time creating the backups, creating the policy, and also testing those backups. Okay, what happened? You have not to create backups in Azure?
No, we have already implemented. There is no need to check. So for this reason, we're saving our time to do more funny things in this part.
A DBA in Azure doesn't work at all. So okay. So you mean that when you have a managed instance or you have a SQL Azure database, you don't have to implement the backups. You don't have to test your backups.
Yes.
Really? Can you explain it a little bit?
Yes, of course. Right now, you could see, for example, right now, if I go to the portal, 1 second is here. I would like to see the refresh. Yes, as you could see, we have the refresh right now. We are using the maximum CPU. Yes, for example, for the database, if I go to the server, I could specify right now, 1 second is here. Yeah. We could specify the policy of the backup in the similar manner that you have in on-premises. I could specify the retention about the policy that I need, and I could specify, for example, how much time that I want to have the frequency of the backups, if I want to change the how many days, the backup of the differential backups, etc. So it's very simple for me to specify, I would like to have, let's say, 20 days of backups beside other things about the long-term retention that we could have 10 backups.
But where do you store these backups? Is included in your account, or where is it stored?
Right now, we are going to save this file in one specific block of storage that is just only have access the service. Yes.
Okay, so I don't have access to these backups.
No.
Only to the service. And one question, because I used to store my backups in a different center in order to avoid that it happens something in my center. Okay, I don't lose the backups. So what happens with Azure backups?
The same. Every time that we have when you create one database, for example, let's say this one, we are going, when we create, right now, we could, for example, let me to show you to create one database. Second is SQL databases. We could specify right now how will be the redundancy that we are going to have here. Okay, so if we are going to run the backup just only with a local redundant, the sun redundant, or we are going to send this data to another data center. Yes.
Okay. And one question, for instance, imagine that I want to migrate to Azure. Can I do just a backup in my database and upload it to managed instance or to Azure SQL database and restore it there? Just to have another database in Azure, a copy of my database in Azure.
When we are talking about SQL Azure managed instance itself, no, we need to use one thing that is called export or use another services. But if you want to restore a copy of the database, yes, every time that you choose your database, for example, this database, you have one option that is called copy, that you could copy the database to another place or another server. Okay, or basically you could create a new database.
And can I download that backup? I mean, is it a native backup that I can restore in on-premises?
It's native backup, but you don't have access. The idea is every time that you want to create one database, for example, if I want to restore the backup, basically when I choose, for example, a new name, for example, here, I could choose the backups for 1 second. I don't know what is this.
Okay, yes, but
I could choose this one. Yes,
but this will restore the database in Azure. What happens if I want to bring down the database to restore it locally because I need to have some work or I need to implement something or whatever?
Okay, right now with the SQL Server version, starting the SQL Server version 2022, it's possible to restore the backup from managed instance to SQL servers on premises. But if you need with SQL database, you need to run one process that is called export. Okay, that is possible to load this data from SQL managed instance to on-prem. Sorry, from Azure SQL DB to on-premises. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's do this. Let's check. Let's go back to our presentation to finish the check. Okay. So by default, this is what I will check. I will check if the frequency of the backups is correct. Okay. If the configuration is being done, if all the backups are okay, and this is what I will check in on premises. Also, according to my retention period, I will see if I need to remove some of those backups to completely forget about it, or if I need to do something. I think that this is something that you do automatically in Azure. Is that correct?
Yes, right. It's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, basically, if you want to run or if you want to see the list of the backups that we have for every database, basically, you could specify it here. Oh, sorry, another mistakes. Here, you could run this DMV that we have here. That you could see the backups that we have for this database in terms of full backup, differential backup, or transaction low backup.
Okay, so you use from Management Studio, you use exactly the same DMV that we use to check our backups in on-premises.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, perfect. And we have, I think we have a question.
We have a few. Yeah, yes. We have a few points. So first of all, I will let you answer the question in the chat. If this is a preview or already general available. No, I'm talking about the backup between the managed instance and the on-premises and vice versa.
In 2022, it's already activated. Okay, it's not on preview. You can use it. Okay, but okay. in previous version, you cannot.
Sorry, I cut you. I want at this point to say 2 sentences. First of all, it's my personal opinion. This is the #1 features that I love in SQL Server 2022. I said it during all the private preview. So I really encourage people to test it because you can actually have on-premises server, which is the live one, and have a backup and everything that you need, even always on the managed instance. Now, I want to add another point that you didn't mention. I think it's important. When you want to copy, this was something that asked, when you want to copy between the Azure to the Azure, between Azure SQL, so you have a very simple option. You can use create database as a copy. And in my opinion, this is the best option because you don't need to take the backup, which maybe it's not the right to data you have now. That's all.
Yeah, no, in Azure, yeah, that is correct. Okay, we use the backup example because we have a lot of advisory cases in regards to this. Can I bring back to on-premises my using backup? And previously to 2022, you cannot do it directly. Okay, you need to, of course, you can bring down your database, okay, but not using a backup. You need to export the data. You need to perform a specific backup that is, it's not a backup itself. It's a little bit different because we transfer all the XML data instead of a native backup, okay? But you can download your database using that, okay? So always that you have your database in Azure, you can bring it down to on-premises, but not using directly the backup that you have in Azure, okay? You need to follow some steps. Using SQL Server 22, it is completely compatible. So you just need to do a backup and restore it in 2022. But in previous version, you need to follow some steps.
Yeah. No, it's very important because at the end, your feedback, Ron, the feedback that we have for customers, I think that was one of the most demanding options that we have about to restore the backup from managed instance to on-premises, right? So at the end, we have this thanks to our product team because I think that it's going to help us to have another one. In fact, just only one question more is right now, you know that we have one thing that is called link. I don't remember exactly all the name that is possible to have a direct link. It's the similar way that we have in replication to send directly the data to a managed instance from on-premises. On the end, as we mentioned at the beginning, this hybrid world that we have right now, the idea is to interconnect all the things that we have right now, right? But yes, it's the most important.
So let's move to the next one.
Yes.
Okay. I think we have already
covered this one.
This.
Yes.
So
yes.
Go for the next one.
Yes, I'm going.
This is some keys to keep in mind when you create or you need to do a backup in managed systems. As Jose Manuel said, okay, Azure is doing this automatically. As you have configured it, Azure perform it in an automatic way. So when you need to perform a backup, manual backup, okay, to use it wherever, okay, it's very important to specify with copy only, okay, to don't break the chain of the backup. Otherwise, you will break the chain that Azure is taking of the backups that they are taking, and you will create a mess. So it is very important. And also, I think it is not allowed. The Management Studio don't allow you to do a backup without the copy only set. Okay, so it's very important because if you remember, when you take a backup with copy only, you don't put the date in the chain. Okay, so you don't break the chain of the differential backup or the transaction log backups. Okay.
Yes,
you want to comment something else here?
Yes, the question in the chat, it's a very good question. Can we do it with standard edition as well?
The backup, you mean?
Yeah,
the restore.
Take the backup from the managed instance to on-premises. Do we have to
restoring in on-premises? Restoring the backup in on-premises?
I don't know. Depending on the version. I don't know.
As much as I know, as I remember from Bob Ward and all the discussion, you must have enterprise because of the features that are supported in the managed instance. So the answer is, but I'm not sure. I never tried it.
I will check for it. Meanwhile, Jose Manuel continue with the presentation.
Yes,
I will
yes,
of
course.
It.
Of course, yes, of course. Yes, well, as we mentioned, we have many other options. Other things that we have about it's about the high availability, the checking the high availability if everything is running well, right? So for the reason, for example, in on-premises, Juan, we have many options, no? The day by day, the daily basis that you are running in this path, right, Juan?
Yes, exactly. First thing that we need to consider is that why we have high availability. Okay, why we create all these environments with several nodes or several replicas. Why? Well, because we don't want our business to get down. Okay, and if it has to be down, we want it to recover in the minimum time that it will be possible, okay? Without need to recover everything, just business continuity, okay? So if we have an interruption, we want the minimum time of interruption. So that's why we create high availability. What kind of high availability do we have currently in on-premises? Well, we have high availability with availability groups. We are talking about replicas. We have a failover cluster instance, and we have log shipping that is a kind of high availability. I will not talk about database mirroring because, as you know, it is completely deprecated. So try to not use database mirroring. So imagine that I go for the availability groups that are, in my opinion, the most flexible ones, okay, and maybe the most easy to maintain. So what I will do, well, I will have a checklist to verify if all my replicas are up and running, are syncing fine, okay, and if my dashboard is completely green. Then I will see if we have had any failover event during my absence, okay, and I will check, if possible, why those failovers took place. And then I will check the database health, okay? I mean, let's see if our maintenance plan in regards indexes, statistics, and all that kind of stuff are working fine and are correct, okay? So that's what I will check. What I will use to check it, well, the activity log, obviously, the extended events that we have for high availability, for the availability groups, the error logs, the default health trace of SQL Server that is continuously running by default everywhere. And also, if I have audits with alert of health or whatever other tool that I will implement. In regards the maintenance, what I will have, what I will see if I have configured any alerts using audit, or if I have the jobs that are running correct, okay? Usually I create a job to send me an email in case it discovers something or whatever, okay? But what happens when I go to Azure? Do I need to do all these kind of things, Mr. Manuel?
More or less, yes, but with less effort, let's say, okay? For example, in right now, when we have our database, for example, here it's this database. In order to review what was the health, if something happened in terms of failover, degradation of the service, etc., basically I could see this option regarding the resource health. I'm going to see what happened with my database. For example, today I caused one problem in database that I saw that my database right now was degraded in one specific moment of the time. Okay. Also, as you mentioned, Juan, we could send an alert to one specific conditions when the database, for example, is available, unavailable, or degraded in this part. So, at the end, pretty much is the same in terms of the activity. Also, I could see the activity log about the scenario that happened with my database. As you mentioned, I don't have right now any replica, but I could see right now if I create a replica, I could see what is the status, the replica, the state, if I have any lag in terms of the replicas that we have, because basically the service that we have.
So for sure, you invest much more less time reviewing it because you have all just in some views, okay? But at the end, it's something important to review if we have some event of failover or some failure. That is correct.
Yes.
Okay, so now if we go back to the presentation, one thing that we invest a lot of time is to decide and to create this high availability. Okay, we need to maintain several machines. We need to keep all the storage up and running, and that is a huge investment in both in money and also in people that need to take care about it. Okay, and I need to create it manually. Okay, it's true that in Azure virtual machines we have several templates that do it almost all for me. Okay, so I will be able to create a failover cluster instance or even availability groups with several replicas directly using the templates and just configure some specific parameters. But how it works in Azure, Jose Manuel?
Pretty much it's also the same, Juan. At the end, we have just only one difference. How we maintain the high availability for our services. Well, basically, by default, it's every time that you create one database, we are going to have 3 copies of the data. Okay. The only thing is when you choose a business critical or premium, we are going to implement this this high availability based on the SQL always on. We are going to have another 2 nodes that is covering in the failover groups these 3 replicas. And the end, you are going to have the primary and 2 secondaries. From the reason, you could connect in the similar option that we have in always on to the read replicas instance. When you choose a general purpose or a standard, the replicas is based on the storage. So you just only have one virtual machine that you have 3 replicas of the storage. If something happened with the replica, with this when storage, we are going to have another 2 copies of the high availability.
Okay, so you mean that we don't, sorry to interrupt, but we are running out of time, and I want to speed up a little bit the presentation.
Yes.
So you are telling me that you are using by default availability group. So I don't need to decide between failover cluster instance or which high availability solution is better for me. You use by default always on. Is that correct?
Yes, right. It's correct.
Okay, that's good. So do you have any questions in regard to checking high availability or the different high availability solutions that we will have? No questions? You are mute. You are mute.
There are 2 questions on the chat without answers. One of them, I don't know what it's related to, but he asked about the 200 gigabyte here. The question is, database size bigger than 200 gigabyte or the backup need to be greater than 200 gigabyte?
That is for you, Jose Manuel.
I don't know. With this number, I don't understand the question. Most probably is regarding about managed instance. When you run the backup, the command backup database to URL, and the database is more than 200 gigabytes, you need to stripping to create multiple files because it's for the limit that we have in the block storage. Most probably, I think that is rated about it for the backup.
Yes, but his question is the limit size is for the database itself or for the backup, for the size of the backup.
No, the
I
backup.
think it is for the size of the backup.
Okay, so the size of the backup. No, we don't have this limit. At the end, the only thing that is going to happen if, for example, in a business critical, once the total size of the backup is more than the size of the database, you are going to pay an extra money for this for the data that we have in the backup. Basically, we don't have any limit in terms of backups.
Okay, so if the backup is not a backup, if the database itself is less than 200 gigabytes, you say that you don't need to split it to files. Is that correct?
Yes, right. In managed instance, yes.
Okay, so this was the question, as I understand it. The second question is, if we do that, what is talking about that? I just wanted, okay, if we do that, you mean the restore, do we need to create credential for the on-premises SQL Server?
Well, yes, because I don't know exactly, or we have a very well documented document in internet about explain this one. Yes, and then you need to have access to the URL in order to restore the data. Yes.
Okay, so okay. Let's move ahead. Any other question, or can we move ahead?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So, well, basically, I think that Juan, we reached the most important, most funny, the every DBA wants to have, right? About it, no, Juan?
It's more funny. It's very, very funny. Okay, yeah, we need to monitor the performance. So what happened in on-premises? Okay, what we will do is we will check how is our CPU going, if we are using intensively the CPU or if we are okay, which are the queries that are using more CPU to try to fine tune them. Also, it will happen with data IO, the usage of the storage that we are doing, the size of the files. And also, we will see if we are having timeouts or any errors in the execution of our queries, if we have too much queries waiting for something, okay, all that kind of things, okay? What we will do? Well, we have, for sure, a lot of DMVs, we have extended events, we have a huge amount of resources to monitor the performance, okay? Including the performance monitors with SQL Server counters will give us a good overview of it. But we want to show you something that starts with a very, very easy thing. That is the dashboard, the performance dashboard that Management Studio offers, okay? And it doesn't matter if you are in on-premises or in Azure, okay? In Azure, it will be limited because the Azure Support Center will give this information, but it's very, very nice to see, to have a 2-minute overview of here. Please, can you open it, Jose Manuel?
Yes,
Performance dashboard. As you can see, Jose Manuel just click, right-click in the server and select from the reports the SQL Server Performance Dashboard. And as you can see, we have a summary of the current status of our server, of our instance and the server, because here is the system CPU utilization and the SQL utilization for this specific instance. And then if you see below, okay, you have the current activity in regards to the requests that we have, the sessions, the CPU that we are using, and all that stuff in just a view, okay? And if we go to the right part of this panel, okay, you will see the current waiting request. Now we have nothing, okay, because Jose Manuel has nothing running in on premises. He's an Azure guy, so he has nothing running here, okay? And below is the most important one. You have historical information. You have the weights, the latches, the IO statistics, the CPU. You have also the expensive queries by CPU, by storage, by write, by reading, and you have access to all of this information just from here, from Management Studio. You don't need to know all the DMVs that we have for it. You can use it. By the way, underneath the performance dashboard, what we are using is all the DBs that we already have, okay? Just run those DMVs for you, okay? So you can see it, and we show you also in a graphical mode that is usually much better to see and it's more affordable. So for instance, Jose Manuel, if we go to the expensive queries by CPU, if you click there at the right.
By CPU?
Yes, by CPU, for instance, okay? We will see all the queries that we have run, and you will see all the candidates that we have, and you see all the detailed information about the execution of those queries and the query itself. So it's quite easy to locate currently which are the queries that are using highest CPU, okay? And remember, this is historical because this is also cumulative, okay? But you can also see what are the queries that are currently working and currently running. Okay, the same with the ones that are more expensive in memory, more expensive in writes, more expensive in readings, and it's very, very, very easy to see it. And the pity is that I don't know why, but most of the DBAs doesn't know about performance dashboard, okay, and how they can explode. This is the easy way to use all these DMVs and all these counters that we use to monitor the performance, because this is based in the data that we have internally in SQL Server DMVs and in the performance counters that we are gathering, okay? So from on-premises, I don't want to invest more time in on-premises. So Jose Manuel, how you can see this in Azure?
Well, in managed instance, pretty much you have the same in the reports about the same scenarios, okay? But in managed instance, we don't have this option. So in this case, if we want to see several details about this report, basically the idea is to go to the portal, check, for example, how is the CPU resources that we have right now. We could see about CPU, data I/O, log I/O, word percentage, multiple informations about it. Of course, we have other option that is called, if I choose one database, one option that is called about performance recommendations. Automatically, when you enable this option, we are going to provide and also to implement directly if you need to create an index or if you need to drop an index because you are not using this one, or also about the query performance insights that based on the query data store, that is one option that we have in common, SQL on-premises and performance services, we could see also the queries that is taking time in terms of resources, let's say in terms of I/O, in terms of CPU, the most expensive queries that we have. And also if I click in the query, I could see right now what is the text of the query, and I could implement something about it. So for the reason, also is pretty much is the same. And additionally, you could create several alerts based on the different metrics that we have, okay, about when the CPU reaches one specific amount of threshold, DTU percentage, data I/O, etc. So it's using, depending on the let's say the service and database tier that you have. I would like to include two things more. It's about the option that we have that is called monitor. Monitor is one option that we have right now that if you choose this one, you could see additional information that previously we were not able to see. It's about, for example, 1 second, in my database, what happened about the performance counters. Let's say the data I/O, let's say memory clears, what is the different groups in terms of buffer pool, cache, procedural, store, etc., backups. We could see the database space that is using right now, also about the graphics. So also at the end, using the Explore metrics, we could see the many of the performance counter that we have in SQL Azure that we are going to capture using this Azure Monitor.
Jose, sorry to interrupt you because we have run out of time, but I don't want to finish the session without mentioning Query Data Store and how efficient it is to do performance tuning, okay, and to troubleshoot performance issues with your queries. And also, it is a tool that you can use from both, from on-premises and from Azure, okay? It doesn't matter, you have Query Data Store there. In on-premises, you need to enable it. And if I don't remember bad, in Azure, it's enabled by default. Am I correct? Yes. Okay.
Yes,
so, yes, it has some performance impact, but it is worth, okay? It's worth to have it enabled. Can you show a little bit, because
of course.
Take a couple of minutes, Ronan?
Yes, of course.
I just wanted to say that we are at the end of the time, but I don't want to stop you because there are questions and it's very interesting for people. So I will not stop you. We don't have anything after it. It's not like an event that we have a session after session. So you can take a few more minutes. But if we already stopped, so I will mention that we have 2 questions. So let's answer them. First of all is regarding the tool of the SSMS. The question is, can we use the agent in order to create the report? The agent on premises in order to create the report. And the second question, I will ask both of them and just answer. The second one is that what you are talking is Azure SQL database or managed instant, both of them.
Okay, so for the first one, I'm not aware that you have any way to create a report using a job with a performance dashboard. You can create one by yourself because, as I said, everything that is running underneath is available for you. I will share later some articles in the chat. Okay. But I would.
My suggestion is to use Power BI. I don't think the agent is a service. It's not something with a GUI. So I don't see any sense in this.
We can run certain T-SQL commands, okay, but it will not show you nothing as a report of the dashboard, okay, because we don't have graphic interview related to it, okay. But you can for sure collect this data at a certain point, and as you said, send it to Power BI to show it.
And the second question, just to clarify, if you speak only about Azure SQL database, managed instant on-premise, or it was we are talking about the dashboard, or it's related to all of them.
Go ahead, Juan.
No. In regards to the dashboard, it is limited. Okay, you can use it for sure in on-premises, but for Azure is quite limited. Why? Because we don't have access to the information about the server and the counters of the server. Okay, so it's limited to just the information in regards the instance itself, and in the database only for the information in regards the queries. Okay, because we don't have any further access in the managed instance to the server counters and in the SQL database to the rest of the instance. Okay, so it's
but
very
you give us the solution using the portal. You show us
exactly.
that we can.
Exactly.
Yes, even in the portal, you have you could create your own report about it, and you could pin in your dashboard. If I click pin in my current dashboard, every time that I log into the portal, I'm going to see this request. I cannot show you because I saw one customer that they have in one specific screen all the services in a specific dashboard in the portal. Was really amazing how works this one. Okay, so yes, for Azure SQL DB, I think that it's more easy to use the portal because you have many other options. In SQL Managed Instance, it's a mix between on-premises, the option that we have on-premises, and the portal. For example, also if I choose my Managed Instance, I could see about the graphics, about the CPU usage, data I/O, etc. But let's say that it's a mix between the options that you need to use. And also, just only one thing more, it's we have customers right now, they are using third-party tools. Okay, so several monitoring tools that we have in the market. Right now, we have many very famous. They are using directly running the same query that they have in on-premises against the Azure SQL database and Azure Managed Instance, and they have the same information. Of course, depending on the services, you are going to have more or less options, but let's say in overall, you have the same information in terms of executions, etc.
Okay. Do you want to close the session?
Yes.
Yes. Let us comment a little bit just about Query Data Store.
Yes.
And we are ready to close. José, please go ahead.
Yes. Basically, when we have a performance problem, the idea is to go to the query store and use the query web. At least I use the query web statistics because for me, give a lot of information what happened with my SQL instance. The idea basically is to use to configure what happened in the last, let's say, in the last 12 hours, for example, I could see right now that my problem that I have was the CPU for 1 second. Let me just only 1 second, because I have an example here, much clarity. 1 second. Yes, we have more. For example, what happened in the last 2 hours, 12 hours, or we could use the custom option to very specific about this information. We could see parallelism, buffer IO, etc. If I click in the CPU, as most probably you know, is the option that the query that what was the query that took this data, this CPU. I could change based on the information that we have, average max time, and also I could see the data in a grid instead to see in a graphic way. And if I saw it in the graphic way, basically the idea is to review what happened with my query. I could see the plan, the execution plans, etc. So it's a very, very useful information that we have in query store, that we could identify what happened with our queries.
And here you are seeing just a small amount of its power, yes. Okay? Because we have several tables that you can access to it, and you yes. can query directly to the to those tables, okay? To the tables where we store all the data for Query Data Store. So you can create your own queries to see the deltas, how a query evolving along the time. If you have a time, for instance, you can create an alert if the query is lasting longer than whatever during certain days, and you can check the weighted stats at that moment to see what could be the problem at that moment. So it's really amazing. Okay, the people usually get just here in the graphics.
We need to schedule a meeting for the query store. It's
yeah, I think so.
a full session, or actually 4 sessions. So let's leave it for the next session, and I would love to schedule with you more sessions. But we are at the end of the time, so before we close it, I don't even share my screen. I just want to say thank you, of course, Jos and Juan, for coming here. There are several questions that we can continue, but I want to thank everyone who came here, because several people already need to go probably. So thank you for attending the session of the Data-Driven Community. Please follow us. We do record this session, so we will upload it to our YouTube channel, and I will ask Jos and Joan to send me all the session materials, code, everything, so we will publish it as well. Okay, and if you have more time, so there are a lot of questions, which is a good sign. So I don't care to stay. And do you want to go over them?
Yes, if you have questions, please.
There are tens of questions.
Go ahead.
This is why I needed to cut. First of all, let people to go if they need, but we can continue with the question. Okay, so I'm going to the question. Most of them, part of them I already answered. Someone presented that he have a third-party tool on SQL Managed Instant without, he asked if there was no expected issue. I assume, I'm not sure, but if it's Daniel Peterson, if you want to speak, so put your hand up and I will give you permission to speak. But as much as I understand the question is like, he have today on-premises solution with a third-party application. He want to know if moving to Managed Instant will not have any issue.
About the third-party tool or about their database?
It's not my question. I just read you from the chat. I understand that
it was not a question. It was a statement that they are using. Yeah, I have read the chat, and it was not a question. It was a statement that they are using with managed instance a third-party tool to monitor it.
Okay. What kind of tool do you use?
We cannot recommend third-party tools. Sorry.
Okay, let's move forward. How do you change time frame? This is good, but this is about query store. Okay, if it's short, if not, we will take it to the next session. How do you change that?
It's very easy. Change the time range for data store. Very easy.
It's a very common question.
Basically, is to click here in the configure option button that you have, and you could choose different predefined options, or you could choose custom and specify what is the time frame that you are using.
And the next question, which is not here, but I said it's very common in when we have session about query store. How do you do it with Transact SQL, with queries?
Sorry, with?
Queries. Can you control the time frame with queries?
With queries, well, yes, I think that at the end, for example, in SQL, for example, in SQL managed instance, at the end, all the reports that we have right now, it's 1 second. For example, this one, let me to run the SQL profiler. I know that is deprecated, but we could use other one, but just only because I know, Juan, I know that you are going to say good to me. Yeah, I know. I'm going to stop here. Yes, I know. 1 second, it says SQL SAP.
After this demo, we'll close the session.
Okay, no problem. So at the end, yes, because every time that you run something, for example, in Query Store, you could see what happened in SQL on premises. Sorry, in SQL premises, in SQL
underneath, in SQL.
Underneath, yes, sorry.
What are the statements that we are using to get that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the end is 1 second. We have a lot of things. Yes, it's here. This is the queries that internally this graph is using, and here somewhere, yes, you could change the.
It's very small, but you can change it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great session. You want to say something? Sorry, did I cut you?
So no. It's just that here you can see an example of a query that you can use, and you can modify this query. You can customize this query to get your own information. Okay, for a specific query, for a specific time frame, or you can take the whole history and look at the deltas. Okay, with calculated fields or something like that. Okay, so it's very powerful. When you learn,
and by the way, you can use extended event as well, and get it dynamically, and in my opinion, much simpler, because you don't need to scroll as you did now and try to find it. You can get it directly.
Manuel is old school.
Yeah, okay, but it wasn't ready for the session, but next time when we are doing a session on this, so probably this will be the faster option to do it. Thanks a lot. It was very interesting. And thanks everyone who came here. We will close the session now. And we will meet you in the future in next sessions.
Thank you so much.
Great for us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
A pleasure. Bye.